the representative of Pakistan.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you for convening today's important debate. Warm welcome to the distinguished Foreign Minister of Afghanistan, and our thanks for his statement. I'd also like to thank Jan Kubush for introducing the report. Under his leadership, UNAMA is to implement a challenging mandate. But the UN's role in Afghanistan should adjust to emerging realities characterized by the projected drawdown of international forces and the onset of the phase of transformation. Similarly, reduction in UNAMA's budget must not compromise core objectives of the UN in the medium and long-term perspectives. The Secretary-General's quarterly report under consideration today has provided some useful insights on the prevailing situation in Afghanistan. I would like to share some of these to you, which say a lot and yet need to be pointed out. I think the fact that it was seen necessary to write in here, and I read it out to you, that Chairman Rabbani and senior members of the High Peace Council visited Saudi Arabia and agreed with Saudi counterparts on the need to work together with Pakistan in advancing the peace process and to utilize the important role of the ulama and religious leaders. This is not necessarily being reflected today, but was considered important enough and an important venue to be stated. On the 15th of July, at a similar event in Kandahar city, I again read from here, participants adopted a 15-point resolution emphasizing the need for the rule of law, and I say this pointedly, reform of security agencies and improved outreach by provincial committees. It then points out that 69% of all incidents are the majority in Kandahar, Kunar, Nangarhar, Ghazni, Khost and Helmand. Then the concern increases. UNAMA has expressed concern over the appointment of alleged human rights abuses to positions of responsibility, as well as over several reports of abuse involving ALP personnel. Furthermore, it says there have been continuing reports of defections from various Afghan security bodies. This includes 17 members of the ALP in the northwestern province of Badghis, understood to have joined the Taliban on the 24th of June this year, and a further 93 switching sides on the 3rd of July. There's a worrying development affecting trust during security transition based on close coordination between Afghans and their foreign mentors, included on 17th August by an ALP recruit understood to be a former insurgent. It raises a point that needs to be looked at closely here as we have discussed these matters in other aspects. On the pro-government side, civilian deaths and injuries caused by airstrikes, night raids, and other military operations have decreased significantly. But air raids continue to cause more civilian casualties than any other tactic used by pro-government forces. Then, regarding the Ministry of Information and Culture's risk for curtailing freedom of speech and increasing governmental control over the media. In July 27, this was a decree, and here the report states it contains language that can potentially restrict the right to receive and impart information, as it orders the media to refrain from anti-state propaganda and anything that may lead to negative motivations. And the most important aspect, where no civilized society can do without, and I refer to the judiciary. It says, the period also saw the creation of several working groups to revise the penal code, but the appointments of a new Chief Justice and a member of the Supreme Court, whose terms expired 2 years ago, are still awaited. There is a mention of the increasing narcotics problem, but after hearing so much about the Tokyo conference, I want to refer to an important element. Given the depth of humanitarian needs in Afghanistan, following the mid-year review, the consolidated appeals process, while increasing to 448 million to address the life-saving needs of over 8.8 million people, it is worrying that as of 1st August, funding stands at only 33.5%, less than half of what was available during the same period in 2011. I then go to the ISAF report, where it talks of the security situation. During this reporting period, insurgent-initiated attacks, IIAs, increased by 6% compared to the same period in 2011. Regionally, in the Southwest Command, IIAs for the reporting period have increased by 13%. In the Regional Command South, that was Southwest, the IIAs for the reporting period have increased by 6%. In the Regional Command North, the IIAs have increased by 29%. And in the Regional Command West, the IIAs have increased by 46%. And the last two have been the further side of Afghanistan, miles away from anything close to us. In the capital, it is good to know, and that's what reduces the entire aggregate. The IIAs have decreased by 22% for the Kabul area. Now, it seems that recently, by October this year, there will be 352,000 troops and police in Afghanistan. And yet, we have this report of the ISAF, which I find disconcerting. I then move to a foreign policy report published from Washington, I believe, and it says that it is incorrect, if not disingenuous, when we say that the Taliban's momentum has been blunted. The Taliban's spear is sharp as ever. Last week, on September 14th, it cut through Camp Bastion, one of the most secure foreign bases in Afghanistan. It destroyed 6 jets valued at up to 180 million. It says all troops, the US surge is over, all troops brought into Afghanistan after December 2009 will have returned home by the end of this week. But the Taliban surge has just begun. Sadly, it also says, meanwhile, in Helmand and Kandahar, the heart of the surge, 30% of children suffer from acute malnutrition. I then quote briefly the New York Times for August 2012. On the 9th and 10th, 8 American and British soldiers were killed. August the 13th, 2 more green on blue attacks. August the 17th, 2 American Special Forces members were shot to death by a new Afghan local police patrol. And in early September, which is even greater concern to me, American officials said that the training of Afghan local police and special operations forces had been put on hold. I then move to another aspect which I consider equally serious, as quoted in the New York Times. In one of the series of recent steps, the military decreed that American and NATO service members should always carry a loaded magazine in their weapon to save precious moments of attack by Afghan forces. Another initiative, now a priority, is a program named Guardian Angel that calls for 2 soldiers to monitor Afghans during every mission or meeting. The angel, whose identities are not to be disclosed to the Afghans, must be prepared to fire on anyone who tries to kill a coalition service member. Now, I don't know how everyone will take this, but I have read these from official documents and 2 of the most renowned publications of America. The Secretary General has an important point on the need to transform the security gains into public perception of greater security. He has also expressed the need to factor the financial impact of the withdrawal of international forces. It is now to be seen that security and humanitarian risks associated with a possible economic shrinking following the withdrawal, has it been addressed forthrightly? The Secretary General has rightly noted that Afghan peace and reconciliation is essential to avoid protracted conflict and instability. I share that observation, with the long-term solution to the challenges that lie in a sustainable reconciliation process under Afghan ownership. The process must not be complicated by inexplicable caveats or conditionalities. Sustainability of reconciliation process can only be ensured if stakeholders share the goal of reconciliation. International partners should facilitate this convergence. The idea of reconciliation under any coercion contravenes the fundamental lessons of Afghan history. We are committed to an Afghan-owned peace and reconciliation process. We are not only committed, we are supportive of the objectives and work of the Afghan High Peace Council. Our commitment to the reconciliation was reiterated in a joint statement issued after the visit of our Prime Minister to Kabul in July. We hope that our efforts will be supplemented by meaningful international cooperation based on pragmatism and attention to ground realities. The security situation of Afghanistan is a matter of paramount importance for Pakistan. Afghanistan's march on the road to transition, particularly in the security sector, is not too encouraging at the moment. While we value the effectiveness of Afghan national security forces, the importance we attach to them is evidenced from our financial contributions made at the NATO summit in Chicago. Our offers for training and capacity building in the past are on record. But despite our bilateral arrangements, often not acknowledged in this venue, Pakistan has sought closer regional engagement with Afghanistan and its international partners on all security-related issues. We continue our active participation in the Istanbul process and a number of trilateral and quadrilateral processes manifests our commitment. We look forward to the senior official meeting of the Istanbul process next week in New York. Our ongoing intelligence and military cooperation with Afghan and international counterparts is self-evident. Improvement in military cooperation should be acknowledged by all the players. We welcome the deliberations of the Tripartite Commission meetings which resumed in May this year. Pakistan is also maintaining robust presence of our security forces along the international border with Afghanistan. We recently have enhanced our presence and monitoring through checkposts and regular patrolling. Our deployment of security along the international border far exceeds the number of international and Afghan forces deployed on the other side, which might also be the reason why so many attacks take place on the western side of Afghanistan. And we continue to be resolute despite the high human and economic cost of this endeavor. The humanitarian situation in Afghanistan is often eclipsed in the glare of security and political challenges. We have suffered substantially, and I need not read the figures here as I intended to, but we will have to say we have shown considerable restraint in the wake of attacks on our checkposts across the international border. We will not join the blame game, and we will object these issues, or we will seek to address these issues with objectivity. In this backdrop, cross-border attacks into Pakistan are under active discussion with ISAF, including the Border Coordination Mechanism as part of the ongoing coordination and cooperation between Pakistan and ISAF based on a mutual respect and in our mutual interest. We hope such interaction will help cessation of terrorism across border posts. As a matter of interest, a flag meeting was held on the 13th of September this month between the two militaries to discuss the very issue. In Afghanistan, the humanitarian situation is somewhat unfortunate as the country continues to suffer from calamities that are natural, food insecurity, and the impact of never-ending conflict. We remain by far the largest contributor in easing the humanitarian burden by virtue of hosting over 2 million registered Afghan refugees. We hope the dignified return of these refugees will be achieved through implementing the solution strategy agreed in Geneva in May 2012. In my home city of Karachi, we are now facing serious dimensions of large numbers of these refugees getting together in that southern port city. We nevertheless will appeal to and call for the immediate measures to address the existing shortfalls in humanitarian assistance for Afghanistan and the Afghan people. This should be insulated from the impact of financial shortfalls, which is so rampant at the UN this moment. Pakistan is supportive of the counter-narcotics efforts of UNODC in Afghanistan. NATO ISAF operations are also vital to disrupt and neutralize the narcotics industry and its increasing funding streams. Our collective goal must be complete eradication of cultivation and progressive elimination of manufacture and trafficking of its higher derivatives. This is not necessarily happening yet, but Pakistan will continue to support bilateral and regional efforts against narcotics. In the end, let me express confidence that the redoubtable people of Afghanistan will overcome all pressing challenges and seize new opportunities for a brighter and prosperous future. Pakistan shall remain their committed and steadfast partner. I thank you, Mr. President.
I thank